Yeah, just so people know, Ankur is missing. We don't know where he is. No, we do know where he is. He's gone to Vipassana yoga. He'll be completely away from worldly pleasures for 10 days.
Worldly pleasures.
Yeah, that's what they call it, right? Worldly pleasures for 10 days. So we have
Yeah.
Diksha instead joining us. Uh,
Hi guys.
uh, Diksha, can you introduce yourself for the audience very quickly?
Absolutely. Should we wait for a couple more minutes? Think people are still
One
joining.
second, one second.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, I think today's. I think we can just start. People will catch up.
Okay,
Yeah,
awesome.
and also we can give some intro on what our plan for today is.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, hi guys. So I'm basically a multidisciplinary designer. I've been working as a designer for about 6, 7 years now. I expertise in branding and UX, and we thought today's topic could be related to that. So maybe I could give you some insights that I've learned over the years from my
Absolutely.
work in the industry. Yeah.
That's great to hear, Diksha. So, I think the general idea for today's talk or general discussion is going to be around one of the most important things that a lot of startups face. That is building your first product and figuring out whether that product actually has a need in the market, right?
Hmm.
So,
That makes sense.
the general idea that I want to promote is we need to actually test our thesis out without a lot of work. A lot of people just build the product out first. Instead, our plan is to have it so that you know uh, a lot of individuals can test out their idea just based off things like a simple survey. So the
Hmm.
idea is to figure out
Okay.
how to bring these
Before
ideas.
before we
Yes.
get to that, maybe you could take us through your own process of
Mm.
how you reach the stage where you have an idea and then you're thinking, okay, I should, like, how do you reach that stage where you think, okay, this is the time where I should probably ask my target audience, or
Mm.
where do you pilot basically that? How do you reach there?
I think it's mostly right at the start. Like when you
Mm-hmm.
get an idea, you think, or usually it's not an idea. It's more about solving a problem, right? Most of the
I see.
times, ideas are around solving a problem,
Mm-hmm.
and finding that basic answer whether other people also face the same problem or whether I'm overthinking about a problem makes a lot of sense.
Okay.
So what I generally do is first ask around people around me. Like if I know people in the same industry who've used the same tools or do
Mm-hmm.
the same stuff, I first ask them if they face the same problem. Like I directly
Mm-hmm.
go ask them. But if it's a problem that I see is like on the internet and I don't think it's from me, or like personally it's not from me but from a lot of other people, for a lot of other people, then what I realize is putting out a survey and actually targeting a lot of people and asking a
Mm-hmm.
lot of questions, asking people that I know to forward these surveys to people that might actually face these problems
Okay.
is the right way to go ahead.
I see. So
Yeah.
when you say surveys, what kind of? Is it like a Google form thing, or how do you talk to people in
Yeah.
general?
I've used a few platforms, but I think I in the end come back to Google Forms because it's the easiest and cheapest,
It is, it is.
right? And I'm sure like people in the audience might have Akshay is asking to ask talk and Keshav is asking to talk. Obviously, wait one second, I didn't see that. One
Yeah,
second, let me just bring these people on. Um,
sure.
What's up?
hey Keshav, hello.
Hi,
Yeah,
Keshav.
Um, hello Akshay.
yeah.
Hi,
Hey,
Akshay.
hey, hi.
So Akshay, so we were just as we were discussing, right? Uh, you know, you say you're on startup enabler and you have a bunch of things, right? Like, how do you, like, as we were discussing, what is your general process of, validating whether your idea is actually a widespread problem or just a you problem?
Uh, okay. I mean, just to have some context, the first time I ever went on building an idea,
Mm-hmm.
that was a personal problem.
Mm-hmm.
The
Mm-hmm.
way I think about it is, well, obviously, if you have faced a problem personally, it helps because that is what makes you stick throughout. You
Mm-hmm.
know, when times, when times are hard, obviously. But
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, just like you mentioned, right, it's not about you and your problem. It's mostly about if that particular problem exists out in the market.
Mm-hmm.
So, uh, yeah, few things definitely that you need to at least in today's era, right, you need to build distribution first before you build product, right?
Mm-hmm.
uh, I guess that is what this server might end up doing, right? People ask a lot of questions.
Mm-hmm.
You might come up to an insight, right? And based on that particular insight, you might end up building something. So this is a recent thing that we are now, currently in the startup that I'm working in, we are doing now. So before building anything, right? Before even testing our own hypothesis, we try to build distribution, and by distribution, of course, I mean it could be anything from a WhatsApp community or a Discord server, where we can basically push people to talk about, certain aspects of our problem that we want to solve about.
Yeah, I
That's
mean,
first.
Mm-hmm.
that
Yep,
makes sense.
yes, that's first. But obviously, the problem here is the hardest part is building something based out of consumer insights, because a lot of consumer insights turn up ending bullshit, right? So you have to
Yeah.
be very, I guess, you have to be very experienced, if I can say that, to basically gauge which particular consumer insight you need to act upon and which consumer insight is basically nothing. So that's the
Abs-
hardest part for me, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely true, Akshay.
I
Because
see.
if you look at it with respect to Apple, right? Apple original consumer insight with respect to phones was, oh, look at Nokia, look at all these other platforms. They are providing so much flexibility. They're doing all these. But when iPhone was released, they just completely swapped the equation. It was completely not it was not dependent on the consumer mentality because they were actually exploring new consumer. They were actually
Mm-hmm.
pushing towards new consumers who were used to a certain kind of stuff before, right? They did solve a lot of problems for the consumers in that process, but I think their whole product was counterintuitive in that sense, right, Akshay? When the first iPhone came out.
Yep, true, true. I think Steve Jobs said that, right? I mean, the consumer doesn't know what he wants. You
Yeah,
need to tell them.
yeah. I think the biggest thing is a lot of people mistake what the consumer says with what the consumer wants. So the biggest problem I believe for us also is actually making sense of surveys. The first biggest problem is how do you put out these questions? How do you actually ask and talk to these people? Because most of the times people are like, oh, do you think this is a problem you face? And they'll be like, yes, I face this problem. Do you think water is expensive? People are like, ah, yeah, water is expensive. Do you think we should build more in India? Then people will be like, yes, you should build more in India. But in reality, they just want cheaper water and cheaper products at the end of the day. They don't really care. Like a common consumer doesn't really care whether it was built in India or not, right? I mean, there is a little bit of feeling that we should build it in India, but at in most of the times, it's more in the lines of I need a cheaper product or I want to save money is a typical consumer thinking, right? And
I
save
think it's
some time.
I think it's a great start when you yourself are a part of your consumer base, like Akshay just mentioned, right? Starting with your own personal problems. So you'll already have like a pool of people who have similar problems. I think
Mm-hmm.
that's a great place to start. That helps you find the right set of people that you should ask questions to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Finding the initial group that can give you valuable advice and insights, basically feedback on your initial ideas and how you're trying to solve it. I think that would be the key step in the whole process, and I think that's where every platform or product should start.
Yeah, I think that's very important, and I thought we should go through with a simple exercise, right? For this Diksha, like we should pick
Uh-huh.
up someone's idea and think about how we can build out a questionnaire around it, or how, or like if you have your own product and you're trying to build uh, a survey, or like questions to ask your consumers or questions to ask your potential users, it'll be great. Like, does anyone in the audience or anyone on the stage have a product that they think has, they want to do some research on this particular product through
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
questions?
Yeah, I have like a product idea, basically building a platform where like if you're, let's say like you are a SaaS, you are selling a SaaS product and you have a lot of leads and you got their LinkedIn, you got their Twitter, and basically building a product where we scrape all their LinkedIn and Twitter to like find how can we like sell our SaaS product to them, and how can we uh like how can it be useful to them, like cause like if someone is like in sales, so what he need to do is he need to like scroll through it and like find out how can they use it, like how can how can be their product be useful to them. So basically helping in that sense, and basically getting to know will they buy our product or not, or the leads which we have generated will be good or will be right or not. So filtering out the lead, basically something like that's
Could
what
you
I
help
mean.
us with a little more insights? I think you have talked about this before, but I
Yeah.
might not have been a part of that earlier. What does the product do? Like, if you had
Basically
to.
help businesses in sales, like
Okay,
get to know more about their customer, like how can they
okay,
sell their product, and yeah, that's it basically.
So,
And basically there is scoring algorithm if you have or like there are some uh how should I say like some testimonial or something. When someone is going through a website, they ask them and they try to like sell them their SaaS or thing like that in like sales tools. So building something like that.
okay. What's the part with the scraping their Twitter and LinkedIn?
So basically, we can get to know more about their product, through like sorry, like basically we can get to know more about themselves to like sell our product.
okay.
So if we can do that thing,
Yeah.
like it will help them in basically in conversation in sales.
So what you're saying is individual insights from the internet for
Hmm.
Yeah,
sales teams, like
yeah,
personalized insights about
mm-hmm.
potential buyers on sales teams, right?
Yeah,
So that's what
yeah,
you're
yeah,
talking about. Like,
yeah,
technically, this is going to be whether it is B2B SaaS or B2C, or
yeah,
like anything.
yeah,
Uh, so I think the biggest point here, I
mm,
mean, technology side aside, Neon team on T team. That's it. I think it's yeah. He has a T in
yeah,
between. Um, Neon team. I think we can keep the technology aside, because right now we are talking about building
mm,
questions to the consumer. Like, potentially, who are your consumers? First, identifying these people is important. So here
yeah,
you've already defined who your consumer is going to be. He is going to be a salesperson, right?
yeah,
He's going to be a
yeah. Those
salesperson.
people who sell SaaS products. Yeah,
Yeah, salesperson in a B2B SaaS environment.
yeah,
So
yeah,
they, most of the times, these companies already have something in place. It's usually
mm,
their marketing stack, or their sales stack,
mm,
because they usually use Salesforce with a bunch of plugins to do this. So,
yeah,
and how do you contact them and reach out to them? It's going to be hard, but again, you're talking to salespeople, so you'll search for sales on LinkedIn, and then you'll reach out and be like,
yeah,
"Hey,
Find a
check out."
bunch of them.
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
I mean, you're doing your sales work through your own tool here, right?
yeah,
You're gonna build your tool first to first figure out who you want to actually ask these questions. Now, your
yeah,
first question should never be about, "Hey, we have a product. Will you use it?"
mm,
Because in a
okay,
survey, that's not gonna give you any answers, because they'll
mm-hmm,
be like, "Yes, we will use it." But once you
okay,
actually find the decision maker in this tool, in this chain, it's going to be a
mm,
different story. They'll be like, "Oh, we already have all these in place and we do not have IT budget for doing these." But
mm,
the first step is going to just be whether this is actually a real problem, figuring out, because that is what we're trying to figure out,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Uh, we're just trying to figure out whether personalization helps or not in these
yeah,
conversations, or
yeah,
if scraped data can just be used as is, or can it be should an eye needs to look at it, like someone needs to verify
yeah.
it, clean it up, and then put it up for them. uh,
Mm-hmm.
so these are two or three big questions that you have. Now you'll need to,
Yeah,
depending on where you are in your product cycle, I feel like
yeah.
questions need to be set up for that particular state, right? Your
Mm-hmm.
first question is always going to be, what is your sales stack? And you
Yeah,
need to know what different companies use as sales stack.
yeah.
So depending on their answers, let's say you're building this on any forms platform, they let you do branching. Like, oh, if this is
Okay.
their answer, we can go towards this question. So you build a
Mm-hmm.
nice little system where, oh, if you're
Mm-hmm.
using Salesforce, do you know that this other platform exists for
Yeah.
uh, cleanly doing,
Mm-hmm.
excuse me, cleanly doing what do you call personalization? Or
Yeah.
do you use any personalization? What is your
Mm-hmm.
personalization level? I mean, I Diksha is
Yeah.
going to help us better when it comes to framing these questions. I mean, that's why
Yeah.
I have Diksha with us, because I'm really bad at framing these questions in the
No,
first
you're
place.
doing great with tech stacks.
Yeah.
And then understanding where there are holes in the system through this data is
Mm.
important. So
Yeah.
the data is not going to give you a direct answer, or you're not selling through your questions. It's
Mm-hmm.
mainly to
Mm-hmm.
see if uh, people have a problem or not in this space.
Yeah.
Like, your questions should be directed towards finding
Mm.
problems in their system.
Yeah.
I mean, even if you ask them what your biggest problem is, they'll be like, Salesforce is slow. It is
Mm.
huge. It takes forever. These are the
Yeah.
answers that you get, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, what is that, 5%, 10%, 20% improvement
Yeah.
through your platform? How do you figure
Yeah.
whether it's worth it or not in that particular
Mm.
stack is what
Mm.
matters. So your first question, as I mentioned, what is your sales stack? Second question
Yeah.
would be, what are your, like, do users, or like, individuals, when you're doing sales cold
Mm.
emails. Norm is asking to speak. Yes, I'm gonna bring him on. Yeah. I think, yeah.
Also, the thing with this is like I figure out like the sales, all these sales software, HubSpot, this
Mm-hmm.
like it's CRM and all this. It's like a very big opportunity. Like even if you're a very small player, you can still make it big.
Again, it's not about, see, at the end of the day, it's about building the platform first and then selling it to people. Like, when you say it's a small opportunity in a big space, that basically means you're competing with like 4,000 other people at the same time to get eye
Yeah,
space, right?
yeah,
And also, one important thing, almost every business has something in place to do stuff.
yeah.
So pulling them away from that, transitioning them,
Mm.
is a huge
Mm-hmm.
friction point. I think we've spoken
Yeah.
about this last
Hmm.
week also, about,
Mm.
think about what is already in place, and do you replace
Mm.
it in such a way that it actually makes sense to move over to yours? Is it just a
Mm.
cost benefit, right? If it's just
Mm.
$5 benefit, and a company is you losing 4,000 hours training these people who are getting paid like, 20 to $100 an hour, especially in sales and B2B sales, SaaS.
Yeah,
If you're training them again on a new platform, imagine the amount of loss you have,
yeah.
right?
Hmm.
So that's very important to understand, right?
Mm.
Like, removing an existing platform and replacing it, either you're so good that it's worth it,
Mm.
or like, it's a completely new customer who doesn't have anything in place.
Okay.
For example, I'll tell you, for example, in one of the companies that I worked,
Mm.
we had access to Office 365, which
Mm.
provides Outlook, which provides, what do you call,
Mm.
OneDrive, which provides
Mm.
Teams, right? We
Mm.
use Office 365 only for one thing and only one thing, that was for email only.
Okay.
And then I was asking them 4 years ago, why are we still using one Dropbox when we have
Mm.
OneDrive, 1 TB for free through our Office 365 subscription? And that was for
Yeah.
200 people, and they were paying a ton of money. They were spending close to, I don't know, like for 200 people, $10 a month subscription. Like what's that,
Hmm.
$2,000 per month?
$2,000 per
That's
month. Yeah.
$12,000 per year on just
Yeah.
one platform. Now, Office 365 also has two more
Yeah.
things, that is Teams, and we still use Slacks, we still use Zoom.
Yeah.
So they
Yeah.
just recently moved to OneDrive after 5 or 6
Hmm.
years of asking. So
Hmm.
it's basically that the cost was not worth it, cost of moving, because all the data was already here and everyone was so
Yeah.
used to this system that it was not worth moving. It's like worth like what, four
Yeah.
people's $12,000 for this company. It's in the US, so
Yeah.
$12,000 is like maybe one IT person salary for 1 month.
Hmm.
Now, unless it's gonna make a difference that is equivalent to my effort, one person's effort for that 1 month, it's not worth moving,
Yeah.
right? You need to get that value out of it,
Okay.
right? This is an example again. This is a real world
Hmm.
example that I saw, and now I've been bugging them to see why we are still using Zoom and Slack because,
Yeah.
again, $10 or $5 or $7 a month with 250 people or 300 people now is a
Yeah.
huge budget, right? Like it can pay some, you know, at least for something else. I
Yeah.
mean, it's a huge company. It's a public company right now, but it still has those effects to
Hmm.
it, right? Yeah, these are things that happen in companies that you need to understand. When people say
Hmm.
B2B SaaS, they think it's easy because you don't need to sell to 5,000 people. You just need to sell to 5 people. But then
Yeah.
you need to figure out a big thing is
Yeah. You need to figure out that edge.
exactly,
Yeah.
are you providing
Mhm.
enough value to
Yeah.
displace an existing tool, or are you an
Hmm.
add-on? Then if you're
Yeah.
an add-on, do they have budget for you,
Okay.
right? And most tools nowadays are add-ons. If you look at it, a lot of them are like
Yeah.
Slack plugins, Discord
Yeah.
plugins, Microsoft Teams plugins, and then you
Yeah.
have Zoom plugins, Google Chrome.
Yeah.
These are all plugins for doing improving stuff, or people are
Yeah.
calling that it improves, but in reality, nobody knows if it improves performance or not. I mean, there are a
Yeah.
few platforms that do, but like that they are very rare, right?
Yeah.
Uh, I mean, I
Maybe,
guess.
maybe Keshav, if this helped, gave an access to a good number of statistics on how
Hmm.
your platform is really helping them, it might be a great point to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unique selling points since they don't already have it. And I
Yeah.
think Prashant covered most of the specific questions already.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'll just retrace back and tell you how you could possibly approach it.
Yeah.
So what happens is, again, Prashant covered the questions, but how are you gonna speak about it or talk to them? What happens usually is whoever you're talking to, right? They tend
Hmm.
to go along with you and just agree to whatever you're asking.
Hmm.
And Google Forms may reach a lot of people, but
Hmm.
again, it's there's no personal interaction in there, right?
Hmm.
So, to start with, if you could find a few people who work in sales, right? It's a very small
Yeah.
place to start, right? You might have friends or friends of
Yeah.
friends, family members. Just try to get a call with them. If not family and friends, you can always reach out to people on LinkedIn and be like,
Yeah.
okay, hey, I have an idea, and
Hmm.
would it be great if you could, spare 10, 15
Hmm.
minutes to have a conversation. And
Hmm.
very unpopular opinion. Usually these user interviews are scripted, and they should
Hmm.
be, but I think in the phase that you're in, it has to be a very free flowing conversation. And
Hmm.
you have to be the person who records that little opportunities in the
Hmm.
conversations. People might not be very open to telling you a
Hmm.
lot of things since it's
Hmm.
a business,
Yeah.
and they'll be very mechanical with the answers like, okay,
Yeah.
let me help this person, he's trying to do something great, but then that will not really give you substantial
Yeah.
answers. You'll
Yeah.
have to formulate a conversation, you'll have to formulate, okay, I'm trying to do something exciting,
Hmm.
but again, this is going to be an interesting conversation. Make
Hmm.
sure whatever you promise them, you cannot give them a great product right now. It's in a very early stage, it's an idea, but what you
Hmm.
can give them is an interesting conversation that probably could also open their minds, right?
Yeah.
Make them see things in a different perspective.
Yeah.
So, what I would suggest again, emphasis on the free flowing conversation is very important.
Mm,
It helps any kind of person, businesses, friends,
mm,
people, open up, and then you have to be the person who catches that insights, right?
mm,
Okay, this
mm,
person is speaking about, ask them about what their um issues are with their current
mm,
workflows, like where they're facing problems, and what could
mm,
be better.
mm.
Because it's a hierarchical system, right? There would
Yeah,
definitely be some gaps. Ask
yeah.
them about that. They might not be okay with, telling you all of that initially, but again,
Mm,
if it's a nice conversation, they'll be happy to connect again and,
yeah,
give you some more insight. Initially, it has to be a little sort of bonding session, where
yeah.
you ask them questions about how they work, basically. Again, specifications, tech stacks, and sales stacks, but yeah, what are they doing with it? What are the problems that they're facing with it,
Yeah.
and how they could possibly, uh, how would they solve it themselves, right?
Mm,
Okay, you are facing this problem, and what do you think? Like, how will you, or what could it solve? What are the
yeah,
opportunity gaps, basically? So I think initially, once you find the gaps, you can start brainstorming on it.
yeah.
The main features, these gaps can, you can build these gaps into your main features of your pilot. And then again, you can circle back to these people and be like, okay, hey, you gave me great insights and I worked on it. And this is
Mm,
what I've come up with. And why don't you test it and, let me know if this actually worked for you.
mm,
And yeah, I think that could be a great place to start.
yeah,
Norm, I think Norm
Yeah.
had a question and he jumped on. Hello, Norm.
I do want to add a point in this.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a great idea, okay, you think, and you have a big competitor like a Spotify,
Mm-hmm.
mm,
okay, so you can't fairly you can't beat him, okay. You
Mhm.
can't beat Spotify, you can't beat Apple Music because they have a really back of very tech giant and audience base, because anyone in the public, if Microsoft drops a product same as a Spotify, everyone will come and even try to use that and try to explain that yeah, it's okay. Even people will come to even try the product, but if you drop a product, you will having no audience base, no trust. Trust is a very big game in the business, okay. This is really because in the past time I was having a idea on a music platform. Okay, so I just talked to a people in my family. They were, and some connections do I have in some big colleges. There are some my brothers and some stuff. So I came to know that if you have a great idea and you don't want to just have a big competitor and you don't have to hustle a lot, because competing with them is going to be a big deal, and you
Mhm.
should be very confident about your
Why
idea.
don't, why do you want to compete with them? Like you can build small,
Yeah,
you can start scaling by small. Yeah.
No,
true.
bro, you
Sorry,
can't.
sorry to interrupt, but yeah, I mean, you don't need to care about Spotify.
Yeah,
All
Bro,
Yeah.
uh,
yeah.
so
bro,
I
I
think
had a
this
lot.
way, the way I think, sorry to interrupt, the way I think is there. If you see any startup or just think about whenever company started, so everything goes into from diversification to more conclusive stuff, right?
Yeah, I
So
agree with that.
you first you have Amazon, and now you can sell basically everything on Amazon. But then you already know there are a lot of D2C brands that exist because they specialize in stuff, right?
Bro, because
The-
I want to add something with that, because they are having a back with the major brands, if you just wondering. And I'm not going with that ki, bro, you have a great idea and you should leave it with you should compete. I'm not going for that, but if you're not very confident with your idea and don't want to hassle a lot, you can just leave that shit and move on, because
Yeah.
that's not going to work.
I mean, it's always good again, Norm. I think the point here,
oh,
very
that's
straightforwardly
true. That's
being,
true.
you should not, if you have an idea and you think it's something that anyone else, like, you need to build a moat. I'll be very honest. One of the biggest important factors when you're actually trying to build any business is you need to have, like, a moat around your own product.
Moat is always the experience you have, I
No,
guess.
no. Moat,
Audience base.
moat is something that happens when you plan well, right? Like you build your product in such a way that it becomes the go-to, like it becomes the name, like search became Googling, like that's a
Yeah.
moat, right? When your name changes the action, it, like the action has turned into your name has turned into the
Brand.
verb that replaces that action.
Yeah.
That's the crazy stuff. That's like a moat that you built, because now
Mm.
people, when they search अरे Google करना, they're not being
Yeah.
like अरे search करना. No one is going to say
Mm.
search
Internet.
करना,
No
right?
one, majority of them don't know about the internet perfectly. They just go for the Google term.
Exactly. That's a moat that Google built through a lot of different things. uh, Again, Akshay, you had something to add?
Yeah, I mean,
Now
you
chat
don't
bits,
need to.
chat
I
bits.
mean,
Chat GPT करना.
you
No,
don't need
I
to care
think,
about
Yeah,
again,
whoever
GPT
is
करना.
the big font here.
yeah, again,
Just, yeah, I mean,
there are
just go.
niche. Yes, as Akshay mentioned before, there are a lot of D2C brands, a lot of companies that are doing what companies in the US did 10 years ago, 5 to 10 years ago, which
True.
again will did not work out if you look at it. A lot of D2C brands in the US did not work out. They can sell, but it's through VC money that they do, because the moat for Amazon is two things. One is their what do you call total operations, like they have vertical and horizontal integration in operations. That's their moat. You can't beat that moat. And the other thing is their infrastructure is on their what do you call that, software runs on their own infrastructure, which is another moat. And the reason why Amazon is successful are, like, even after losing money for so long, like they never made a profit till what, 2021 or something. Like
Mm.
they were
Exactly.
losing money till 2020 or 2021.
The AWS saved them.
AWS was just giving them some breathing room. It wasn't even saving them,
Yeah.
right? Like the only
Like
reason
you
they
pay for
have
template
that
at
is they spent all that money into building their moat. Their moat are two major things. One is their AWS infrastructure on which all of Amazon runs. Second
Yeah.
is their end to end, what do you call, horizontal and vertically integrated operations.
Scaling.
Mm.
Scaling.
Like their operations are streamlined to the dot,
Mm.
right? Even Google might not know
Mm.
where your house is. Amazon's delivery guy will know it. Only one time. He needs to come to your place one time. In Amazon, it'll be like, oh, mark this point, bro. Like, give me more info. The delivery guy
Amazon,
puts that in, right?
Amazon is
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Just saying, like, uh, building moats is very hard. Like, when you want to compete
You
in,
should be strong with your idea and game.
yeah, you need to
Mm.
have that idea, and like you can build a moat in a niche space too, right? Like Norm, you can build a music app that is specific for a very small use case, because I have
Yeah.
seen
Mm.
someone building a music app which was basically lyrics and with the beats visualized, so that people without ears, without hearing, can actually see the music.
That's
Something of
very
that sort,
interesting.
like something of that sort, like that'll still have downloads, that'll still have people who'll be willing to pay for
Mm.
it,
But
right?
that's the point that if you're just going with, I just said that if you're not very strong with the idea, I just came up with, because I was doing this
Mm-hmm.
music application. Uh, it's been 6 months or so. I just talked to a lot of persons back then because I was not really confident with that it will work or not. So before starting the project, I did a lot of research in the field, and every kind of music application I found out it's going like. So the best solution I came up with, build your application, collect some user base, and reach out to a bigger company for your to idea to yourself, and have it as a
Acquisition directly,
have
directly
it
acquisition. Hmm.
have it as a royalty or some sort of thing. That will be the best solution for this kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's pretty hard to. So, again, when people say moat, for example, what do you think the moat for Spotify is? Like,
It's very. integrated in many platforms.
It is
Very good
Create
basically
the
algorithm. Very good
algorithm.
algorithm.
No, it's not the
the
Yeah.
algorithm.
algorithm, it's not
No,
of
No.
this.
no,
They
I'm
built
not.
their moat by just bringing every goddamn artist on the planet there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
If you have almost every, see, initially their moat was, they were the first, or like one of the first players to actually bring music onto your mobile, streaming to your mobile, at a which fought against piracy at that point.
Mm.
And that basically showed them there was a problem in the market for musicians. The problem
Yeah,
was not for individuals, you and me. We were still pirating from
YouTube and stuff.
mp3
Skull.
yeah,
forget about
MP3
MP3
skull.
group.
yeah,
Yeah,
mp3skull.com and stuff like that, or torrenting stuff back in the day.
yeah,
But now the thing was, because of that, music industry was losing money. So what they did, they went to musicians and they directly formed uh, they went and formed direct connections with musicians. They were like, hey, musician, I will
come
get
to
you
me.
money from the people who are actually pirating. Now, once they started doing that, it became easy for me as an individual. I don't have to go find 400 different websites and then ask my
yeah,
friend. I shouldn't be giving my friend a USB or a SD card to put music for me. I'll be like, bhai,
yeah,
ye kar dena, mera download khatam ho gaya. Like this was like 10
Mm.
or 12 years ago, 13, 14 years ago, where I used to give a pen
yeah,
drive to a friend to give me like 400 songs.
Mhm.
So that's no longer a case now. You just need to open
Mm.
Spotify and you can listen to music. Like
yeah,
14, 15 years ago, that didn't exist. It was hard.
mm,
Like Spotify saw this problem and they were like, and also you could have a lot of virus that could come into
Yeah,
to your
Mm.
system through this,
I
right?
I just destroyed my 16 gigabyte
Mm,
SD card
Oh,
yeah. So,
ouch.
with
so
the virus from
s-
music.
So as you can
I remember
see,
that thing.
the point of Spotify was not the algorithm. It was understanding the underlying problem. See, as a user, I
mm,
can be like, it is expensive to buy single discs. It is very, I would rather go download it because it is free. My user problems don't matter here because it's actually a sales platform for
yeah,
artists. A lot of people
Right.
misunderstand this. Spotify is not there for you and me first. It was there for the artists. Yeah. Uh,
yeah.
I think
But they
Akshat.
Also, it
have
was
such
in
a nice way
Sweden.
to disguise that, no?
Yeah, that's exactly it.
I,
Akshat is
I
a.
feel like Spotify is made for me, like my Spotify.
Also,
Uh,
like it was like built in Sweden because of that Napster thing.
mm-hmm.
Like they got a lawsuit no Napster, so that's why they built it in Sweden. So
Yeah,
they must all know.
yeah, and Akshat is talking about us not having cheap internet. Yeah, Akshat. I mean, if you pay for Spotify now, you can download and you don't need to use internet again. Again, it will come down to the same
Yeah.
thing, right, Akshat? It was the same back then too. You could download songs through Spotify,
Mm.
as long as
Napster.
you were on a Napster, LimeWire. You had a lot of these things. Right.
Mm,
Yeah.
Cheap internet is great. I mean, that's like driving a lot of stuff.
yeah,
But now internet is no longer cheap again because you have 2 GB limits
yeah,
or 1.5 GB limit per day for a lot of people.
Mm.
Unless you have Wi-Fi at home. I'm gonna bring in
yeah.
That's
Akshat. Akshat has
very
something to
less.
say. Akshat has something to say
Also,
on
the
this.
like Wi-Fi price was also very high back then. Now it's like speed is good and cost very less. Yeah,
Mm-hmm. Akshat,
Thanks,
I think
thanks to Geo.
Mm.
Akshat,
yeah.
I brought you on. I think you'll have to click another button somewhere. Let me invite
Accepted.
to speak again.
Yeah.
Invite to
But I
speak.
think, Norm, that you could possibly, if you add a couple of features or pivot it to a certain niche, you could still, be
We had a USP. We had
uh
two of the USP.
What do you
Uh,
guys think about Thread? Like which launched today?
Mm.
I think it's really cool. I don't know why. Like, I think it's
Not
cooler
able to
than
log in.
Twitter.
I,
Mm,
it
What do
is,
you guys think?
but I do think it will not get as much user base as
Mm.
no,
it
it's
will be
gonna.
much bigger user
Nah, I
base.
because
think
It
I
will
Okay,
think
why?
within
it
three
has
months
much
it's gonna
bigger
have a
user.
billion. Within 3 months it's gonna
Yeah,
have a billion users. That's what we're gonna see.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
there is going to be, but I do think people will get back to Twitter very soon because Twitter is
No, no,
has
the new user
addicted.
will be there. Listen to me, like new user will be there for Twitter.
I
See
mean,
that
Yeah.
let's
thing,
not
like
let's
For
not
scam will
Twitter.
jump
increase.
into. I don't want us to fight about where this will be. We can just make
Yeah,
predictions and come back.
Yeah.
If you all are willing to
Yeah.
yeah.
bet, if you all are willing to bet, put your bets down in that what is it
Oh, we
called?
can do that.
I will
Accountability
say like,
section.
yeah,
Accountability section exists, so let's do that.
yeah,
Let's not
Okay.
make it outright fight in a
We
call.
should
yeah.
do a poll. We should do
Yeah,
a poll.
if you bet
I
saying that this is gonna happen, put it in accountability. That's it.
I think like TAM will increase mostly like
Mm,
for Twitter and Threads both. Like,
mm.
cause like more people will get used to writing
The
tweets and
Hmm.
threads.
Yeah,
new people, the people
I
who are,
think
uh,
the
Yeah,
younger generation will start to join Threads.
yeah, same.
And if Threads is not working, it might go back to Twitter. But then again, Threads is backed by Meta and Instagram. So I think they will be able to do a good job at it,
yeah.
because they know how
yeah.
to lure the
They will
audience.
hire the engineer from Twitter.
I
Like
think
those like people who
Akshat,
got laid off in Twitter, they will be in
they're
like
already in
threads
Meta.
right
They're already in
मैं
Meta.
मैं राज खोलूंगा bro.
Akshat, Akshat
Yeah.
joined. You had something to add about our
Yeah.
previous
But
conversation, I
Elon will
believe.
not be sitting quiet about that, dude. He'll just
I'm
go.
waiting for the cage fight.
Yeah,
Yeah,
cage fight,
he, he,
MMA.
he he is planning
Yeah,
something real big now.
Bat Bat
Choice
also has a
fight.
question. Isn't it hard to scale tech startups in the first place? I think it's not hard. It's more expensive. Like it's less to do with hard. It's more to do with expensive in most places, and you need to have good people to build scalable systems. That's why it's
Mhm.
expensive.
I had a question.
Yeah.
Uh,
One second. Nom.
yeah,
Akshat just joined the
Akshat.
stage.
Yeah.
We'll come
yeah,
back to
yeah,
your question after Akshat, you know, puts in.
totally fine.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I'm sorry. Actually, I was fixing my mic.
No problem.
No worries.
Yeah, so I was just saying that even though the internet was like you said, right, the Spotify and YouTube. Before that, also, if you see before 2014 era, where Geo launched its cheap internet and all things were started revolutionizing in the telecom sector, right? Before that, even if you see, OTT was not that big thing. TVF, I guess, was some sort of non-existential, and
Yeah,
there were so many startups which came out of 2014 because Zomato came out of that. Ola, Uber become mainstream line. Cheap internet has provided us so much access to so many things that we might take it for granted right now, and we think that it's expensive till now, but it's quite cheaper. I can set example also what I
Akshat,
used to purchase at back that time, and it's right now it's so cheap.
Akshat, I think we're not saying anything about things being
yeah,
cheap or not. It was,
Mm-hmm.
I think, before also, you basically increase the total addressable market now, but
yeah,
at the same time, you're giving away stuff for free. Like the people
Hmm.
who are gonna do Zomato, who are doing Swiggy, Zomato, who are using Uber, Ola, could afford it even with expensive internet now. It's the user base. Like, see, we are talking about a
people are
user.
now addicted to internet.
Yeah, I mean,
They
like
can't live.
I'm just saying, like the people that you're talking about are rich enough to actually afford Swiggy, Zomato, Uber, Ola. That means they can afford,
The
expensive
internet.
internet. That's
Yeah.
basically it. Like if we are talking about that piece, 2014 was a big thing for India because obviously we got, internet for everyone for cheap, but that was not really because these things like Flipkart came in like what 2010, 2011, right? Flipkart
Mm-hmm.
was
Yeah.
generally pushed out into Indian market in
Yeah,
2011. It just
Yeah.
showed people that there is a market in India. That's it. See, the point was there was no market before that. People thought India was not developed enough to use internet. They did not understand internet. Even till like 3 years ago, my dad would be scared to use his credit card on the internet.
yeah,
Like
Yeah.
it's the younger
Mm-hmm.
generation that grew up on the internet. See, you need to realize one very important thing. It's the generation that grew up on the internet that is the generation that drives internet. In the US,
yeah.
it's the you know Gen X. Is it Gen X? Yeah, Gen X.
Yeah.
Those are the people who
Millennial.
actually drove internet. It's not millennials. Millennials
Millennials
were
are after that.
born into internet,
Yeah.
but
Mm.
the first group that got used to internet was the Gen X, and
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
they were sold to then. And for us, it was our generation. That is like millennials were the first people,
Millennial,
millennials, and then Gen
Gen
Z.
Gen
Z,
Z.
But
Gen Z.
millennials were the first people who got access to internet, and those are the people who understood the scale at which internet can be, and that's when startups came in. Like, millennials, early millennials were the first people to launch internet companies in India
Yeah.
Mm,
because they
Mm-hmm.
understood the potential of internet. It has nothing to do with, I personally feel, again, this is my personal feeling, don't take it as a thing. My personal
No,
feeling is
no,
that
no issues.
nothing to do with cheap internet. It has more to do with the first group of individuals to understand the
mm,
value of internet was then in India,
mm,
right? And then based on this US based systems, like people were
mm,
seeing all these things happening in US, and then investors were okay, like our investors are older people, they realized, oh, US mein paise bana rahe hai. Biggest company is Apple now, biggest company is Google, and there's like mobile apps, and we are using a mobile, like all those investment investors were actually using mobiles, they were using iPhones.
mm,
That is when they realized the value of it, and that's when they started
yeah,
putting money into companies like Swiggy, Zomato. I mean, if you've seen Zomato, it was what, 2010, 2011, it was just a restaurant review app.
yeah,
It was a
Mhm.
restaurant review app forever. Like
Yeah.
I
Pretty
remember
much like
using,
help.
I remember using Zomato back in 2010, 2009, 2010 for, I don't know, 2011 maybe, for putting in reviews for local restaurants or adding restaurants near my house. Like
Yeah.
I remember that because that is how they did not do delivery back then. They weren't Swiggy, Zomato. Those people just happened to be at the right place at the right time. That is the
mm,
most important thing. We need to understand, opportunities come once for every generation. For millennials, it was 2014-ish. If you were in 2014 in the right
yeah,
2012, 2014, where you had the right skills and the mindset, you were like, and you had money from your pocket or
yeah,
your parent backing, that was the right place to be for a millennial. I mean, from
yeah,
then till 2021, 2022, 20 now, even now, we have opportunities. That's the whole point. But those were the early people who got in. Like early millennials are the people who
yeah,
got to get access to all that stuff. Right?
yeah,
Mm.
Like if you look at the history, like people don't just associate one small event, but if you look at the whole thing as a continuous thing, you realize the first
mm,
people who used internet or understood the value of internet were those people.
yeah,
Yeah.
Makes sense. But I don't know I'm going out of topic or not, but actually I wanted to ask one question. It came to my head when we were talking about that American millennials and India's millennials and Gen Zs.
Mm-hmm.
So if we see the projections right, whatsoever been happening in West world is been happening to our world. Like for example, what happened to them in 2000 to 2010 era, it's now somehow going with or
Mm-hmm.
going to happen to us. So if we think of it right now, like what will be the right thing we can place for the right time?
Oh, you're asking me if I knew
Okay.
that, if I knew that,
Forecasting.
if I knew that, if I knew that, I am not gonna answer that question.
You
if
could have
I,
answered, you could have all done it, right?
yeah, yeah. I mean, it's funny. Like
Yeah.
people see history doesn't repeat itself; it just rhymes. This is actually a
yeah,
thing that a lot of people say if you actually read history, like all the way back, American capitalism and
Mm.
everything. If you read biography of someone like Carnegie Mellon or like Carnegie or what do you call Rockefeller, you will actually
mm,
understand. Like you should actually, like, these are books that I actually recommend people to read. Biographies
mm,
Mm.
of these people. Like you will hate them. Like you should not read them from the perspective of their own writers, not autobiographies. You should actually read them from perspective of people who suffered under them. You will
Mm.
understand the greatness then. Like what did they
mm,
achieve at that point? How much
I see.
yeah,
suffering they caused. Anyway,
Nice. Reverse psychology.
like there are a few really good books in this particular area you should read up. You should be looking at American history or history of capitalism, Indian history
yeah,
in this sense also. How a lot of people keep forgetting, like not just that but also of markets of stock markets, because stock market actually drives
yeah,
a
yeah,
lot of, it's not
Yeah.
the real economy, but it drives a lot of mentality of people. Stock
yeah,
market high hai to people buy more, stock market low hai to
yeah,
they're saving. This is a
yeah,
common mentality. Like if the market is going well, like people are throwing their money out, they'll let me go
yeah,
buy a new brand new car, let me buy a Rolex. That's how people
yeah,
are. But if the market is bad, you will actually feel the hit on regular people, because the news cycle, news media, everything is driven by this. And at the end
Yeah,
of the day, let's not go into that particular conversation right now. Let's
that
move back to
that will take
startups.
Mm.
place.
Let's move back to startups because that's the main goal of this.
Like, like you said, Swiggy was at there at right time.
Yeah.
I would,
Mm.
there was a app, there was a company called Food Panda.
Mm-hmm.
They just
Yeah.
came, they came r- really before Swiggy, the
Mm-hmm.
food delivery, but they were not at time, right time.
Yeah.
They just suffered a lot in India. They just suffered a
I think
lot,
it
and
also depends on the user base. Like Foodpanda is still functional in Bangladesh, and
it's in
I
Pakistan,
think,
it's in Bangladesh.
Pakistan, it's still
The,
there.
the India is uh, spoiled that.
Yeah.
because because the food panda, I do remember in the ad they said there was something, a time limit, then after your food will be free something. So
Mm.
India is just, I don't want to say again.
I mean, we see, you don't give loopholes in the system. You create loopholes in the system just for it's not for fun. Like, see, the problem is they Swiggy and Zomato keeps time limits on drivers, and that makes drivers drive crazy,
Yeah,
right?
Mm.
I mean, they cut out money from drivers. If you have ever spoken to a Swiggy Zomato driver, you will know how much they suffer. Like, they will basically be like,
right.
sir, हमारा delivery नहीं हुआ तो 100 रुपए काटेंगे, नहीं तो we need to do minimum
Mm.
15-20 deliveries a day to get a bonus. And because of
Yeah.
that, they drive on the wrong route, they drive as if there is no tomorrow, they run red signals, they don't care. See, it's about right incentives at the end of the day. I mean, Food Panda did what Domino's was doing. They looked at Domino's because Domino's always said 30 minutes or free,
Yeah,
or 500 rupees. It happened so many times. But then they removed that because there were a lot of cases where people were wantedly making sure that their drivers never come to them in time. They
Mm.
were making sure that drivers had they gave the wrong addresses. They then fought with the drivers saying that it's been like what 1 minute, look at my order time, what is the time now, 1 minute, 2 minutes idhar udhar. And then
it's same.
yeah.
Domino's made a ad on this. I don't remember the actor name,
Yeah.
but Domino's made
I
ad.
think I think Food Panda did the right thing, or even if it happened to them by chance that they failed, because this business, right? This food delivery business, the
Mm-hmm.
economics just doesn't seem to work there, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, no one
Yeah, like,
benefits. To be honest, with food delivery, I feel no one benefits, Akshay.
Yeah, the
yeah,
restaurants go
and
for the loss. The persons are going. The delivery guys are on risk. The companies are not making very well, but still they are doing because they are
well,
earning.
well, according to Zomato and Swiggy, they are about to get profitable, but that has been an effort, an decade worth of money and effort going into turning. It was basically about hitting volumes, right? So I
Mm.
don't know if there are people from Stoa here. I'm a Stoa fellow, right? We had this problem where we had to solve for the right intensives for delivery riders, right? As Prashant is
Mm-hmm.
saying. So we talked to a lot of delivery guys, and I mean, their incentive structure is so complex. How they get paid for per kilometer, and if you see, so recently there was one news that came out Zomato, or I guess it was Blinkit or Swiggy, that they have reduced, right, the amount, the salaries or whatever, the charges that they used to pay to these in
Blinkit.
delivery drivers.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
Blinkit.
the reason they did it and the reason they ended up getting profitable on a unit economic basis was because they cut down their expenses from this end, right?
Oh, not just
Paying
that.
lesser to drivers.
Not just that,
Yeah,
Akshay.
of course,
They
not just
also
that.
increase the number of amount percentage that they take from restaurants without
Yes,
their permissions.
yes,
So they
yes.
sent out recently. Zomato sent out an email saying that we are revising your percentage cut from 22% to 24% without asking
Even
anyone. They
food.
just send out that email. You either have an option to say yes or get kicked out of the platform.
I
Now,
mean, it's a
Mm.
duopoly. We can't do anything.
The restaurants
It's
are
almost a
suffering
monopoly.
very
So
much.
and
The
they work
thing is
together.
like, the thing is like we are solving the first world problem in India. That's the issue, I
No,
guess. Like delivery.
I think
What do you think?
I think The first world problem is also not solved because the taste of food once it's cold is not good.
Yeah,
Like,
Well,
I mean, I don't think I've had a good delivery food in long, long time.
yeah,
I mean, I
Mm.
maybe local restaurant that I go to often, which used to bring in delivery before also, which used to deliver
yeah,
with their own driver before also, free delivery that they used to
yeah,
do. Only that guy tastes good, but other than that, like I haven't had a good delivery food experience in forever. Maybe Domino's, again, Domino's anyways is a not good food
yeah,
place anymore.
Mm.
It used to be better, now it's horrible. But
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think what what is our conversation again? We are just jumping into different things, right? Having
we
a
are just
small
Free
little
flowing.
talk, free flowing talk. Uh,
No, yeah.
yeah, do others have questions? I mean, there are few more people in the
Yeah.
audience. I would love to ask, like, I would love to hear questions. I mean, Karthik is here. Karthik, we would love to hear about your
Yeah,
new,
drones.
new. Let me invite you to talk. I would love to hear about the new word that you coined. Yeah, I mean, I love that word. I keep forgetting it, but I love the word, is what I'm gonna say.
I'm curious.
Did Karthik vanish? No. I'm gonna click on invite to
He's
speak
back.
again.
Yeah.
uh,
I think you can just accept it.
Yeah.
there's a message popping in your screen.
By the way, like, did anyone invested in Idea Force?
Nope.
Mm.
Okay, I will just like to state in 2014. I'm not very old. Okay, I'm in 12th grade.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
So when the internet came, because of that internet, I am here. Otherwise, I would be not here because I got an inspiration from a person called Hacksmith on YouTube.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I love that guy. I'm just crazy fan of his. At some point in my life, I was something like, either you let take me in your team or I will open mine. I don't know. I just want to work like that shit. He's crazy, bro. He's crazy.
That's good to hear. You got inspired by someone. That's really nice.
He's
Mm.
crazy. He's
Karthik
work.
is having some issues with joining, I believe.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Top header. Okay, you are on mobile. Yes. So my friend,
Okay.
we know that problems. A lot of people have that problem.
Yeah.
You might have to turn your phone into what you call landscape mode and then try to
Mm.
accept it. I think that was the trick someone mentioned last time. Oh
That's a
yeah.
UX bug. I also discovered it today only. That's why I hopped on in my laptop.
Ah, got it.
I forgot about the meet of today's meeting. I was just sleeping back there. Phone rang.
Yeah.
I just saw a notification that the meeting has
I
start
mean, it's
about.
good to have
Mm.
everyone listening and like asking. Obviously, I want others to also ask questions. We have Pyro, we have Soumya, we have Remorse, we have Nehal, we have Neon
Nehal,
I
Team.
have a message from someone.
Neon T team.
Yeah, Neon T Team. Love to ask questions.
You guys don't have any
What?
Sorry, Akshay.
question. Why did you guys make this server? Like,
I mean,
what?
oh, you have so the general idea for this hour is to talk to other members in the community and like ask questions, answer questions from people, and also discuss one topic. I mean, today's was actually user, basic
Research.
user research
Interview.
at the
Yeah.
highest level, and then we had Keshav's question specifically about a particular product he had in mind and how that can be researched. Yeah.
So I have a I was just asking some question there. Yeah. So yeah, you have watched what's the name of Shark Tank. There were some people just came for pseudonymous social media like that's called Hood. What's
Mm-hmm.
your take on that? Is it good and what stuff in it?
I haven't watched. Just so you know, I don't watch Shark Tank. Y'all can hate on me for that, but I'm not a huge
Uh,
Shark Tank
I
person.
personally don't watch. I
Uh,
don't
so
watch. I watch specific episodes where some tech related companies came.
yeah, I don't know enough about that. Pyro just answered the biggest question. Yes, Pyro, we are with you on that.
I
Yeah.
personally agree.
Yeah, I
I like to
mean,
watch that because I
if it's a anonymous platform, then it is basically Reddit-ish. That's what it turns into. Pseudo anonymous is Reddit in its highest level, because you
yeah,
still have emails and then stuff. If you're talking about a fully anonymous platform, it'll be 4chan and stuff like that. I mean, I wouldn't recommend people here going on to 4chan just saying. I'm not endorsing it or anything. Please don't go.
is, is it
Just
on dark web?
no, it's on the regular web, but I still don't recommend. Personally, I mean, I've been like, see, I got onto internet when I was what 12 years old. That was not even 12. When I
Hmm.
was like 9 years old, that was like 20 years ago, 22 years ago. Like
Was there internet?
yeah, I had dial-up from Tata Docomo, Tata Indicom.
Ah, I
We
see.
had that phone, and then you had to connect the phone to your,
Dongle.
not the dongle, not
Uh,
the dongle. This was even before that, where you need
Ethernet?
no, yes, BSNL phone. Actually, the first one was BSNL. BSNL dial-up tha. From the dial-up, we
Uh,
had to connect to the computer, and
right.
uh,
Ethernet.
the way I got that internet computer was also because my uncle 50 pies for each click. Yes, I remember that. No, that was after a time. That is after you used up 100. What do you call 50 MB of
Hmm.
internet or something like that for that
I
month.
see.
Pyro.
Yeah. 50p.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For me, it was just funny because I got that computer because one of my uncles went to US back then. Like he was a banking manager here. He decided he gives up everything and he goes to US, right?
Mm-hmm.
And his computer actually became mine, my brother's basically. And me and my brother used to fight for that computer. Uh-huh. नहीं ये recharge is recent. Scratch card for
Nah,
recharge is way too recent, Nehal.
I have used that dial-up too. Download
Yes,
pirated
yes.
games.
Karthik, like,
Not relatable.
yes,
Yeah.
You guys hear me?
yes, we can hear you.
Yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
very clearly.
Finally.
Yes, sorry. A lot of conversations, a lot of other conversation too, fun conversations. But I
Hmm.
wanted